Can a 7-time world champion make magic with an unresponsive car? What happened with Hamilton in the 2025 Brazilian GP sprint left many questions about Ferrari, about its performance, and about the future. Lewis Hamilton crossed the finish line in 7th position during the 2025 Brazilian Grand Prix sprint race. At first glance, it might seem like a disappointing result for a driver of his caliber, but digging beneath the surface reveals a much more complex story. The most important thing about this race is not only the final position, but how it was reached. Hamilton started from 11th position after a rocky qualifying, and his progress on track by 4 positions gained on a short and technical track like Interlagos was a clear testament to his ability to extract the maximum from a limited car. Every overtake he achieved in those 24 laps was a hand-to-hand fight, where experience, tire management, and strategic reading of the environment played an essential role. However, the result also highlights a deeper problem: the real competitiveness of the Ferrari SF25. While other drivers were fighting for podiums and victories, Hamilton was celebrating with restraint the achievement of a single point. Yes, a point that could be key for the battle for the runners-up of the constructors, but that in essence represents the abysmal distance between the expectations and the reality of the Ferrari 2025 project. Consequently, this 7th place cannot be analyzed as a simple statistical result. It is, instead, a symptom of a technical structure that does not work as it should, and of a pilot who, despite his history, is forced to survive in a battle for which he does not have the appropriate tools. It's a valuable point, yes, but it is also a brutal reminder of how far Ferrari is from the real goal, to be a championship team again. And for a driver like Hamilton, every race like this means lost time, opportunities that will not return, and a frustration that, although he does not always say it, can be clearly read in his body language and his post-race statements. Do you want me to develop the second block now in even more depth? I recommend doing so, as expanding the narrative from the origin of the sprint ranking problem adds a powerful emotional and technical layer to further engage the audience. Everything began to go wrong on Friday, in the sprint qualifying session of the Brazilian Grand Prix. What was meant to be an opportunity for Hamilton to capitalize on his experience and dominance at technical circuits like Interlagos quickly turned into a frustrating and unproductive episode. SQ2 was the breaking point. Hamilton was eliminated prematurely, condemned to start from 11th position for Saturday's sprint race. But reducing his elimination to a lack of speed would be simplistic. In reality, it was the result of a combination of technical, strategic, and bad luck factors. The critical moment occurred at the end of SQ2. Hamilton was launching his last attempt to improve the time, just when Charles Leclerc, his teammate, spun at turn 10. That error caused a double yellow flag in the sector, interrupting the Briton's fastest lap. According to the regulations, drivers must lift their foot significantly in sectors under yellow flag. Hamilton, confident he could still post a competitive time, only hesitated slightly on the throttle. It wasn't enough. The FIA investigated him for not having visibly reduced speed in a compromised area. Telemetry showed that Hamilton did not clearly decelerate. Ferrari's defense was that the driver did not see the warning panels due to the angle at which he entered the corner, and that there was only one green signal visible on the exit. However, the stewards considered that seeing Leclerc's car stopped was reason enough to take extreme caution. The result was an official reprimand. Although he did not receive a penalty on the grid, the damage was done. His attempt was ruined and he did not have time to return to the pits for a new lap. He had missed out on SQ3, and what could have been a top 6 position was gone. This moment perfectly encapsulates one of Ferrari's big problems in 2025, the inability to react quickly to unforeseen events. Instead of anticipating potential traffic risks or incidents, the team executed a millimetric strategy that left no room for error. And in Formula 1, when you don't leave room for the unexpected, everything can go down the drain with a single poorly executed turn by any other driver, even one from the same team. The situation became even more frustrating because, according to internal sources, Ferrari had predicted that they could fight in the top 5 during that qualifying. Optimism was based on medium tire pace simulations that, in theory, placed Hamilton close to McLaren and Mercedes. But in practice, the SF25 was not up to the task. The car struggled to maintain its balance in fast corners, and the asphalt temperatures, above 40 degrees, complicated tire management on the flying lap. In that environment, Hamilton's only chance was lost in a cloud of gravel and yellow lights. The British pilot's subsequent statements left no doubt about his emotional state. He spoke with clarity and resignation. He recognized that they were not where they should be, that the pace was simply not enough, and that all he had to do was have fun. For someone who in previous seasons fought for victories, that phrase was devastating. It reflected the complete turn that his competitive reality had taken since leaving Mercedes. Instead of building a legacy in the red, he seemed to be surviving aboard a project that does not meet his needs. This qualifying disaster was more than just a bad day. It was a symptom of a broken structure, a car that was difficult to configure, a strategy without flexibility, and a pair of drivers who, instead of complementing each other, unintentionally interfered with each other. The fact that Leclerc's mistake directly compromised Hamilton is just one more manifestation of the lack of coordination within the Ferrari garage. And most alarming, this was not an isolated case. It has been part of a trend that, race after race, leaves the Italian team one step behind its direct rivals. Ferrari's real enemy in Brazil was not an on-track rival, but a series of deeply ingrained technical limitations in the SF25, which the Interlagos circuit mercilessly exposed. The lack of competitiveness of the car was not the product of an isolated failure or a specific bad configuration. It was, rather, the consequence of structural decisions made during the design of the car that, once tested in real conditions such as those of São Paulo, revealed its conceptual fragility. To understand this, we must go back to the core of the aerodynamic philosophy with which the SF25 was conceived. Ferrari opted for a solution that critically depended on running extremely low to the ground. This decision sought to maximize ground effect, generating downforce through the diffuser without the need to increase resistance in other parts of the car. Under ideal conditions such as circuits with smooth, stable surfaces, this approach can be effective. But in places like Interlagos, with undulating asphalt, natural potholes and constant compressions, this philosophy becomes a condemnation. Interlagos is one of the most irregular circuits on the calendar. Each corner presents a different combination of lateral forces, elevation changes and weight transitions that demand the best of the chassis and suspension. And this is where the SF25 falls apart. To prevent the car from hitting the ground, which can damage the flat bottom and seriously affect aerodynamic efficiency, Ferrari was forced to raise the ride height higher than usual. But this, in a car designed to operate low to the ground, means a direct and severe loss of performance. Engineers faced an unsolvable dilemma: either protect the car from impacts with the asphalt, sacrificing downforce, or keep it low to maximize performance, running the risk of damaging essential components and losing control in fast corners. They opted for the first. And the result was a car that couldn't generate enough grip anywhere on the lap, neither in the slow areas nor in the high-speed areas. The telemetric analysis was conclusive. In every sector, the SF25 was slower than its main rivals. There was not a single corner or straight where Ferrari could make a positive difference. This type of uniformly poor performance is one of the most alarming signs in Formula One engineering. It means that there is not a single key problem to be solved, but rather an accumulation of small deficits in all areas: aerodynamics, suspension, traction, lateral stability, and front axle response. After being eliminated in the sprint classification and finishing 7th in the sprint race, which, although it added 1 point, was little more than a consolation prize, Hamilton shared statements that crudely reflect his emotional state. "I'm not doing well, my year hasn't been going well, and I just have to enjoy it wherever I am." This phrase does not arise from competitive euphoria, nor from satisfaction at having pushed the car to the limit. It is born from emotional exhaustion, from the progressive acceptance that things are not under your control. This change in discourse contrasts powerfully with the Hamilton we saw just a few weeks earlier in Mexico, when he qualified third and showed signs of real optimism. There he spoke with conviction, with ambition. In Brazil, however, what dominated was a stoic tone. The frustration no longer exploded outwards like in other seasons. Now it seemed to have transformed into controlled resignation, but no less dangerous for that. It is no coincidence that he also talked about having fun. It is a defense mechanism, a way to redefine your internal motivations in the absence of external results. Instead of obsessing over what he can't control, the SF25's competitiveness, Ferrari's strategic decisions, the car's technical limitations, he begins to focus on the only thing that still belongs completely to him: his attitude behind the wheel. It's a way to preserve your passion for racing when everything else seems to fall apart. This attitude, however, raises a big question for the future. How long can Hamilton maintain this stance before frustration overtakes tolerance? Because no matter how much he tries to enjoy himself, the competitive instinct of a multiple world champion does not disappear. It can become muffled, it can go silent for a while. But it is always there, demanding answers, asking for results. The point achieved in the sprint is the reflection of a weekend where Hamilton's ability was not in doubt. What was evident was the fragility of the project in which he is involved. Leave me in the comments what you think of all this.